Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel Psych E-Pathshala. Go to our channel homepage and click on the subscribe button. And to get notified for our future videos, click on the bell icon and choose the all option. To answer daily quiz on psychology, search for Psych E-Pathshala on Facebook and like our page. So let's start this video. In this video, we will be discussing about synapse and neurotransmitter. What is synapse? Synapses are the neuronal junctions through which information from one neuron can pass on to the other one. These synapses are the key elements for the functions of the nervous system. The three areas that makes up a synapse are the presynaptic membrane, the synaptic cleft, and the postsynaptic membrane. The part of the presynaptic neuron forming the synapse is called presynaptic membrane. The part of the postsynaptic neuron forming the synapse is called the postsynaptic membrane. The synaptic cleft is the gap in between these two membranes. It is about 20 to 50 nanometer wide. The presynaptic membrane is usually the part of the axon terminal, also called the synaptic knob, which contains neurotransmitter. Based on the paths involved, synapses can be of four types. Number 1, axodendritic, where an axon of a neuron is attached with a dendrite of a following neuron. Number 2 is axosomatic, where the axon of one neuron is attached to the soma of another neuron. It can also be axoaxonic, where the end bulb of an axon is attached to the membrane of an axon just before the axon bulb. Number 4 is dendrodendritic, where the dendrite of one neuron is attached to another dendrite. Based on the nature of transmission, synapses can be of three types. Number 1, chemical synapse, where the transmission occurs through neurotransmitter. Number 2, electrical synapse, where the transmission occurs through the gap junction. Number 3 is conjoint synapse, where the transmission is partly electrical and partly chemical. Based on the number of neurons involved, the synapse can be of three types, where one neuron ends on another one, where multiple neurons ending on a single neuron, and where one neuron ends on multiple neurons. Let us discuss about the properties of synapse. The first property is one-way direction. Through a synapse, impulse can travel in one direction only, that is from the pre to postsynaptic neuron. The only exception is the electrical synapses. The next property is synaptic delay. The synaptic delay is the time required for the impulse to cross the synapse or the synaptic cleft. It is about 0.5 millisecond. This time is required for calcium ion entry in the presynaptic knob, release of the neurotransmitter, and for its action on the postsynaptic membrane. The next property is synaptic fatigue. The synaptic fatigue or depression is usually attributed to the depletion of the readily releasable vesicles. Depression can also arise from the postsynaptic processes and from feedback activation of the presynaptic receptors, which means there is no neurotransmitter available for the transmission of an impulse. The next property is inhibition. Synaptic inhibition is highly important for normal functioning of the nervous system, as this process stabilizes the neurons and prevents firing by trivial stimuli. Otherwise, the highly interconnected neurons would lead on to an explosion situation or convulsion due to any stimulus. The inhibitory property of a synapse makes sure that not all impulses are carried on to the next neuron. Synaptic transmission is the transfer of information or the neural impulse across a synaptic junction. These transmissions are brought about either by chemical or by electrical or by both processes. The steps of synaptic transmission are: number 1, neurotransmitter manufacture, where presynaptic neuron manufactures or synthesizes the neurotransmitter molecules from simpler molecules derived from the food we eat or from other sources. The next step is storage. The manufactured neurotransmitter is stored in the button vesicles at axon terminal of the transmitter neuron or the presynaptic neuron. The next step is release. Nerve impulses reaching the button initiate a process which causes some of the vesicles to move to the synaptic cleft, where they discharge their stored neurotransmitter. The next step is diffusion. The neurotransmitter readily diffuses across the narrow synaptic cleft and combines with specialized receptor molecules on the membrane of the receiving or postsynaptic neuron. You can see the animated version in the picture. The next step is combination with receptors. The combination of the neurotransmitter and receptor initiates changes in the receiving neuron that leads to excitation or inhibition depending on the neurotransmitter involved and the type of receptor which it combines. The next step is deactivation. The combined neurotransmitter is rapidly deactivated, as is excess neurotransmitter in the synaptic cleft, to make the postsynaptic cell ready to receive another message. One method of deactivation is by the catalysts called enzymes, which trigger chemical reaction that break the neurotransmitter molecules. Another way of deactivation occurs by the process of reuptake. In reuptake, the transmitting or the presynaptic buttons take back the released neurotransmitter and store it in the vesicles for use of another time. So what are the neurotransmitters? A number of small bulbs called buttons are found at the ends of the axons of the transmitting or presynaptic neurons. The buttons have in them small bodies or vesicles. These bodies or vesicles contain neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters are chemical substances which govern the transmission of impulses from one neuron to the next one. These chemicals are released from the vesicles into the synaptic cleft when a nerve impulse reaches the buttons of the transmitting cell. The neurotransmitter then combines with the specialized receptor molecule in the receptor region of the receiving cell. The effect of a neurotransmitter or the receiving cell is either to increase its tendency to fire nerve impulse, which is excitation, or decrease the tendency, which is known as inhibition. Excitation occurs when excitatory transmitters depolarize the adjoining neuron and change the permeability of sodium ions, causing it to flow into the neuron. This depolarization is known as the excitatory postsynaptic potential or EPSP. Acetylcholine is a type of neurotransmitter that causes excitation on the postsynaptic neuron. Inhibition occurs when inhibitory neurotransmitters hyperpolarize the adjacent neuron. For example, gamma aminobutyric acid or GABA is one such inhibitory neurotransmitter that changes the permeability of positive potassium ion and negative chlorine ion, causing potassium ion to flow out of the neuron and chlorine ion to flow into the cell. This causes inhibitory postsynaptic potential or IPSP. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. Click on the circle to subscribe to our channel and click on the boxes to watch other videos on our channel. Like this video and share it with your friends.